People make resolutions on New Year's Eve, but don't keep to it. That's quite normal. And the same thing in Rosh Hashanah. Jewish people make resolutions for the new year and don't necessarily hold on to them. What could we do to make sure that as we come to a new year, Rosh Hashanah is coming, indeed, it is from this time that we wish each other ksiva v'chasima tova, to be inscribed and sealed for a new year, a sweet new year, good new year. So we're already starting to think about the new year. What is it that we must do to prepare for the new year so that our resolutions, our reflection become permanent, become things that actually work? So there's a big hint we can get from this week's Torah portion. But first, why is it that we started actually on the 15th of Av to start wishing people to be inscribed and sealed for a good year? And that's because it's 40 days before the world was created. The 15th of Av is 40 days before the 25th of Elul, which is when the world was created, because Adam was actually born on Rosh Hashanah, and the world was created 6 days before Adam. So what's this about 40 days? Now we see in this week's Torah portion, Moshe goes onto the mountain 3 times for 40 days, and he expresses it again and again. He went first to get the Torah. Then he went up to pray to God that he shouldn't destroy the Jewish people. And then he went up again to ask God for full forgiveness, that the Jewish people not only not be destroyed, but Hashem treat them as he was treating them beforehand. And then on the last day, Hashem says, Salachti k'terecha, I forgive you as you've requested, which was on Yom Kippur, and that's why we commemorate it on Yom Kippur, and it has become a day of forgiveness for time immemorial. So what's this about 40? Why does Moshe have to be on the mountain for 40 days? So we see in Judaism, 40 is a number that repeats itself many times. I'm sure you could think of many 40s. There's 40 days that the Jews traveled the land. There's 40 years that the Jews were through the desert. There's 40 years of leadership of Moshe, Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. It seems like a number of fullness. 40 days it takes for the fetus to develop. Within that period of time, one could even pray for the sex of the fetus only within the first 40 days. And because of that, there's some leniencies in relation to abortion on the first 40 days. Ask a rabbi in exactly what case. But there's something about the 40. The fetus is formed, and after 40 days, it is complete. And interesting that indeed there's 40 weeks until the fetus is finally born. So there's so much of Judaism focused on 40. Now 40 is 10 times 4. 4 is this is a big system in the world, starting from the 4 letters of Hashem's name, Yud, K, Vav, K, and therefore you have in the inanimate kingdom, the vegetable, the animal, and human. That's 4 kingdoms corresponding to the Yud, K, Vav, K. You also have Eish, Ruach, Mayim, Ofer, the 4 elements: fire, water, wind, and soil. So and all correspond to the 4. And 10 is the completion of each one. So that's one of the ideas of 40. Interesting is the words for Torah, Tshuva, and Tefillah is a tuf. It starts with a tuf. Tuf is 400. So again, it's 40 compounded by 10. So that's where we have the 400. So something amazing, something special about the 40. But what is it? What does it achieve? So the human nature is such that when we get into different habits, they become part of our, like the Talmud says, Hergel Nasa Teva. A habit becomes nature. And if something is nature, it's hard to get rid of. It's hard to eradicate. The Alter Rebbe says that naturally a Jew should only have a negative inclination in terms of being focused on pleasures of this world, but things that are allowed. But when we indulge in a huge way, then it brings into us a negativity, and all of a sudden we start getting an interest in things that you're not allowed to do. And when you do that, you get enwrapped in it to the extent that it's not easy to expunge yourself from it. You can't just decide one day, I'm going to stop smoking, I'm going to stop drinking, or whatever it is. This is one guy who actually was in drinking, and he went to Alcoholics Anonymous and was getting back on track. And one day he's leaving work and he really wants to get a drink, and he's fighting back and forth, and finally he goes home and he doesn't go for the drink, and he comes home and he says to his wife, I had such self-control that I didn't go for the drink. That is worth a l'chaim. So it's very difficult for people to get out of their habits because you're enwrapped by it. The sages use the term, it enwraps you like a dog. In other words, it like a dog constantly gets around you and doesn't let go. So too, the negativity that we're used to doesn't just let go. So therefore, if you go to Shul Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur and you say, okay, now I want to be good, now I'm going to change, it doesn't work that way. It's not so simple. It's not an easy fix. For every change and transformation, you need time. You need 40 days. And that's what the 40 days from the 1st of Elul until Yom Kippur are all about. These are times that what we're meant to do is organize ourselves, that we're going to transform an area in our life, and we're going to do it one day at a time. And we're really going to focus on it. And if you do so, 40 days, then you have a hope that it's going to be lasting. Then it's something that might happen really fully. You know, the holiest prayer of the year really is called Kol Nidre, right? When people come, Kol Nidre. Kol Nidre. What are we saying, Kol Nidre? It's basically annulling vows. So why is that such a powerful prayer? So the Alter Rebbe explains that we say Kol Nidre ve'esare. Esare means locked up. We're like bound by our promises of the previous year. What do you mean by bound by our promises? When we conduct ourselves in a certain way, especially when we've done so more than once, or especially 3 times, then it becomes our nature. And we're bound by that nature. And it's not simple for us to get out of it. Whatever it might be. Each person has their vice. And we want to get out. So we need to kind of cut bait, so to speak, and change ourselves over a 40-day period. There's a story of Mendel Futterfass would tell. The beaver. The beaver has skins that are very much desired by those who are dealers of furs. So the beaver walks from where it lives, where it sleeps, to the waterbed, and it has a path. And that path every day goes the same path, and it gets to the waterbed, does its work, and comes back in exactly the same way like it went there. So those who want to catch the beaver, they make a hole in the path that the beaver went to the water, cover it with something light, like some twigs or whatever, and then when the beaver comes back, he'll fall into the hole. So the beaver walks back towards his place, and he knows that something is wrong, and he knows he's going to be caught, and he starts crying, but he can't stop himself. He actually falls into the pit. We have to make sure to stop being that beaver. We know certain behaviors. We know certain places that we go. We know certain, taking our phone in the morning, first thing, or places that we might go, or that are not healthy for us. And we can't get out of it. So take 40 days from the 1st of Elul until Yom Kippur and say, I'm getting out of it this time. I'm going to become a different person, a changed person, a better person. And by doing so, then we come to Hashem with Torah, with Tshuva, with Tefillah, with Tzedakah, and we say, give us a good, sweet year for ourselves and our family, and for indeed Klal Yisrael and the entire world.